truck on your face and everything. Good evening, everybody. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I'm broadcasting to you from the Extreme Studios in the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. And if you're listening to our Mission Impossible Season 1, Episode 17 and 18 review, I had the young 20-something Professor Pixel with me, and from the Great West, joining me tonight for our 7 o'clock stream of Breakdown from 1997 with Kurt Russell is none other than RDV. And gentlemen, I already had a request when we go to talk about Kurt Russell in this movie tonight to compare it to last week's very well-received movie that we reviewed called Frantic with Harrison Ford. And RDV, I'm going to start with you being the semi-elder statesman here in the group. I had mentioned with Mission Impossible, I made a line in there because somebody had asked a question about how the Monarch, Legacy of Monarchs TV show on Apple, the first 2 episodes just dropped, the one with Kurt Russell in it.
Yeah.
They're really trying to emphasize character development before really getting into the mudas and everything else there too. So only 2 episodes have dropped, and they're going to do a weekly drop. I'm not against it, but boy, they seem to be committed to it. But in a way, I like it because you can definitely get a feel for like Kurt Russell's son and hear how he is and the other characters. So they're really trying to be consistent, I think, with that.
A lot of shows are doing that. Bosch does it too. They just wrapped up their season of Legacy. They did 2 episodes every Friday.
Now, Kurt Russell, kind of like Harrison Ford, to me, is a guy that if he's in it, we're going to watch it because we like them. We don't care if the movie sucks, and they can have a little bit off to it. But I wanted to ask you to just briefly mention here if this was a first watch for you, what your initial take on it is. What are some of the things you're going to want to talk about tonight?
This is a second time watch for me because you know me, a lot of movies are one and dones. Because,
that is true.
Yeah, there's no there's no replay. It's like playing a video game. Once you beat everything, you kind of just go sell the game and wait for the sequel. This movie was basically, I remember his wife gets kidnapped. Now I'm thinking like, okay, I couldn't remember at the end if he saves his wife or if it's like that other horrible movie that came out in the 90s where the wife just dies, is murdered by the guy. and then he has to go, she gets kidnapped by a gas station. And like, I can't remember what it's called, and it's probably a good thing because that movie sucks. This movie, it's Kurt Russell. I was watching the copy I had, and I didn't recognize his voice at first. It was very it wasn't deep. It was very
because he's playing, to me, he's classical, middle-aged, semi-upscale, middle-class white guy in the 90s because he's got the glasses, he's got the polo, literally polo, and he's got the symbol that's emphasized the 90s of middle-class non-sexuality, and that would be Dockers pants.
He's playing the guy from Massachusetts on a drive with his wife. These 3 rednecks, the one guy from Joyride, the trucker, basically wants to kidnap his wife and ransom her for money. And then it turns out they've been doing this for a while, and just when you think it can't get worse, the wife's in on it, and so is the kid. Everybody at the barn. It was just like, whoa!
They went for it. I give them credit. They went for it.
The only thing that was missing is at the end. It's like when they're fighting in the barn or at the guy's place. It would have been like raining and like lightning. That would have been awesome. Just fighting in the mud, just kind of like Universal Soldier out this fight.
If it was Antoine Fuqua, that would have happened. Yes.
But I feel like Pixel is drinking because, well, he's depressed because he can't be at Publix tonight, but also because he probably didn't like this movie.
Pixel, first watch for you. You're the young 20-something. What are some interesting observations that you noticed about this movie?
It was first watch for me. It was very good. Very good. Like we said in Mission Impossible, gotta love a good thriller, and this is exactly what it is. Like, it keeps you guessing for a good, quarter of the movie because their car breaks down because he wasn't paying attention on the road because head runs a guy off. And at the gas station, he pretty much gets clipped. He's able to guy very easily enough, but by that time, his wife has already gotten in a truck with a trucker who was going to just take her to the diner, the next diner over. Nope. Yeah. Not simple.
I gotta ask.
To be fair, though, the guy did pull in front of him like a jackass, and those people I hate on the road.
But that was, you can tell because of the movie, it was an intentional thing, and he made it seem like Kurt did, right? So I think here, the interesting question is First of all, I was kind of mad at Kurt because he's playing a bit of a pussy. Not a complete bad dude, but just, you know, a soft middle-class guy that's unaware of the dangers that exist on the road.
Yeah, he's not an action hero. He's your average guy.
Every
Be like
man.
every man.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's action in here, suspense, thriller.
But it's not a Jan Curtis production.
I kept. There's a scene in where he has to climb and follow the guy onto the semi truck, and he climbs at the bottom. Instead of just hanging onto the bottom for the whole entire time there, he decides, I'm going to risk fate and try to get a better angle. And the guy should have seen him in his mirror because he was there for like 50 minutes on the side of the truck.
He went Wesley Snipes on
and that now that he loses the gun. I'm thinking, like, if this is real life, he would have shot himself. No proper etiquette when holding a gun.
Well, one of the scenes we get early on in the first act too, as they're driving, obviously it's very desolate, and this is when cell phones were now starting to hit the market and people could get them because they used one in here. Scream the year before, '96, definitely made use of them, I believe, if I recall correctly. But then we see them talking, and it was in the trailer that you posted when you were tweeting about this morning, RDV.
Yeah.
And it's where they're talking about, oh, look at this, you know, donuts, you can win $90,000 or 90,000 donuts, which would you pick or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'd sell one for 10 cents each and pay the car for it. And that's total middle class dialogue. However, that's the key to the movie, because once she gets abducted and they finally go to basically extort him, they make the comment about, you know, you got plenty of money, donut king. And so what I liked here was that the wife's likable enough, unlike, say, Frantic, which whether or not she was supposed to be is another thing. But here, when she goes missing, you feel her absence, but then you feel the fact that that this guy makes the comment when he's extorting him, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's freaking out. That he's like, shit, I need to play along with this. If she's alive, what can I do to save her? And so as soon as it hits that point, the movie kind of changes because it does become more action-oriented and all that. So with what screen time she had at the beginning, I thought there was a solid job setting it up, because the question I wanted to ask both of you seriously, let's do this one at a time, of course, is if you're in that situation, despite him not paying attention, leaving the hood open, which we find out later, and the guy jury-rigged it, your car breaks down and a trucker pulls up. What are you going to do? You're going to have her sit with the car, or you're going to let her go with the trucker, or plan C? Seriously, what are you going to do?
If I'm a yuppie from Massachusetts, I'm just basically going cross country. I got a sat phone.
That's one of the things. Like that situation, a large part of it is because you don't have a cellular phone.
AAA is a thing that exists.
Yeah,
it was
have
not
it
that
now.
extensive in the 90s, and certainly when you're in the middle of BFE like these guys were, with one town every 20 miles, you're not going to even have, even if you had a regular cell phone, you're not getting cell phone coverage. It doesn't work like that.
This isn't early 90s. This is 97. 97, the technology was getting much better than it was prior to the movie.
You still don't have that kind of coverage unless you have a sat phone, which is expensive by today's standards. So realistically, what I'm getting at is, I thought the point was set up, it was set up well, but the question is, what do you do in that moment when you have to make a decision? You know, does she stay? Do I stay? You know, do we both stay? What do we do? Do you both go with them and leave the car? I mean, obviously they couldn't call AAA; they would have done it. So what do you do in that situation? I like that they had a decision they had to make early on, and they seemed okay with it.
They both, first of all, if he's a smart person, he's a conservative. He has a gun with him, and he basically goes with his wife. And they walk to the nearest diner.
You're not walking 5 miles in the desert or 10 miles.
No, you're not.
Well, you're also not letting your wife go and trust her to some shady-looking driver who sounds like Hank Hill.
He didn't seem shady, though. That was the thing. He feels like a very, oh man, no, I'm sorry. These new cars, you know, it just seems that way. He didn't seem shady, so it was a surprise later that he was. They did that very well, because he seemed like, you know, your warm kind of. I have uncles that are just like him.
I'm just gonna
not the murdering, kidnapping part.
All right, so
that personality,
personal experience. Really, you don't trust people. I've seen The Hitcher. I've seen all these movies. You took a chance. You're not gonna...
Hitchhiking was still a thing in the 80s. It just kind of started to die out. So,
everyone else was dying. That's why.
No, so I agree with both you guys. You know, the whole setup here in the first act is done well. We like Kurt Russell. We want to see how he does it. obviously he's a likable guy, no matter what character he has. And to your point that you made when you first started off RDV, the way his voice sounded, it was an intentional acting thing to it, because once he gets kind of dialed in, it changes, and it's like he almost needs this to kind of like be the hero for his wife, because they do go batshit in there in a third act, but in the second act,
his balls drop.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it,
right? Someday, but not yet.
Well, you know, I'm watching it, and you know, you got the intellectually challenged individual setting him up as a part of it, and you go, oh, you could trust him because he's a retard, right?
That was clever, because but
you know who that dude was, and I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Something About Mary.
Yes, exactly, that guy. And I'm like, oh, I know I can't trust him because he's that guy from Something About Mary, because he did it so good.
I know.
Yeah, but then the guy who was harassing him, who was driving the Jeep or what like that, and then we see he's the heavy running him around and all that.
Yeah,
that's Lemmy from Motorhead. If you guys don't know, not really.
Yep, yeah.
Looks like him, right?
The best scene in the whole entire movie is when he's got the guy duct tape in the truck, and he keeps stopping. He's like, "You want me to stop? I'll stop." And I just love that. And then you're like, as soon as the sheriff pulls him over, he's like, "Get out of the car!" And he's like, you're like, dude, I'm so pissed at the sheriff at this point. I'm like, I hope you get shot. You get shot, motherfucker. You're like, he basically gets shot, and then I'm thinking like, don't worry, their ambulance on the way. I'm like, that dude's died. He got shot in the neck. Even though they looked like the shoulder, it clear when he shot him, it grazed his neck.
That was one of the better scenes in the movie, where conveniently the sheriff seemed to pull up, and he came out, and the same trucker, you know, comes out, and they're there, and it's like, officer, I've never seen this man before in my life. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Well, that was an earlier scene, yeah.
I thought that was tremendous, because I thought, I don't know if the cop is on it. Maybe he's getting a kickback. Maybe he's the one giving the information. You know, whatever. You know, and it's just, we see how in small towns people are in on things a lot, and they know it. And that's one thing we don't really see a lot of movies. It's all, you know, connected with cell phones and social media and densely populated things. So I think this isn't really a horror movie, but you can see why, like a lot of horror movies, you get that isolation factor where you can't trust the local yokels, even if they seem like they're
easily going to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
and your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. You're about by locals. You don't really trust them. Wrong Turn comes to mind. Sorry, all that stuff, because of horror movies. I think horror movies probably save lives. If you think about it.
Yeah, the whole bar. That would have been funny if they were all in on it too. Well, they were in From Dusk to Dawn, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So we've seen that. Now, Pixel, you know, your generation, Gen Z, or whatever, millennials, whatever you want to call them, they don't drive. So I guess the analogous thing here would be, if you were in an Uber and it broke down, what would you do?
You deal with the Uber driver, right?
I mean, I'm already with the Uber driver. What do you mean? Well, yes, if the Uber driver had their car break down, and I was taking this ridiculously long trip in an Uber for some reason, and I suppose both go with the trucker, because I'm not staying in this car. What the hell?
A Zoomer young at Uber and probably mistaken me as a millennial and saying, "You dumb boomer." Because that's the mentality.
1 star. So anyway, she gets abducted. Stuff happens, not much really, but basically after they say, "Hey, you got to give us your money. You got 24 hours to do it." Was it JT Walsh as the truck driver?
Yeah,
he was really great in the role. Very calm, not a screaming maniac. He'd done this before, as we find out later, which is good that we didn't know if this was a first time or what.
Guy's got a lot of cell phones.
Yes, he does, and. We'll talk about that here in the third act in a second. So what's kind of cool to me is when it starts going off the rails, because I'm like, man, if you're going to go off the rails, this is what I want to see. So Kurt, you know, we mentioned the scene in there where he's got the one dude and he's got him duct taped up, but the scene that loses it for me, where I just go, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, all right, hit me with it. If you're going to do it, knock my ass out. It's when he goes up to the area that's fenced off with his car, and a dude's chasing him, won't let him by him. So he drives through the fence and does what the only thing he can do. I think he's got, what is it, Red Range Rover that he has. So he's driving, and the guy's going to shoot him. So what does he do?
He drives over
into the fucking river.
Well, the guy was actually running towards him. So he decided.
Yeah. But the car
liked it,
being
though.
in the river and floating down it was awesome.
That was cool.
I'm just
Stupid,
wondering.
but
I'm just
cool.
wondering. In character, did his character watch the movie Rambo? I could survive if I go in, but I'll be in a car. I'm thinking like when you see it goes in there and you see how the window this water comes in. I'm thinking like 9 times out of 10 you do not survive because most people, first of all, they don't have anything to break the window with.
Yep,
They
that's
drown.
true. That's
Well, he
absolutely
had the
true.
window down.
Which is
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do. Roll the
Yeah,
window down, let the water fill in, and swim out.
The problem is that you go in there, if the river is really strong, it could tip over and then you're on the driver door side. You can't get out then.
Well, yeah.
It's important that we
I mean-
discuss these things to illustrate the ludicrous nature of what's happening here, especially for a middle-class white guy that doesn't know any better, and how lucky he
down for
is.
what?
And that's Kurt Russell, so it's okay.
Oh, he said
Now-
ludicrous.
Well, in the third act here, with all this stuff going on, he's told, you're going to go down to this bank, you're going to get your money, you're going to walk to the end of town, you're going to get in the first car that slows down and picks you up. This is when we get to the duct tape scene. And so it slows down here a little bit. So what they're doing here that's good is you got your setup. Then you get your reveal a little bit later after him going through some stuff. You know what's going on. So what does it do now? You have a little bit of an action. So what do you do now?
Whoa, the whole
You
camera
slow it
angle
down.
when he's going to the bank. Yeah, you see it
Yes.
from inside another building. You see through the door, the window, and you see him walking into the bank.
It's
I
like,
love
is he
that.
being watched? Do you know?
I love that.
Town's quiet, it's creepy, and small towns are like that. He goes in there, and I thought they deliberately slowed all this down because he's trying to go in there, and at one point he tries to talk to the bank manager,
Yeah,
and he's like, listen, I'm going to da-da-da, and the bank manager's there. And the reason why I
watch.
bring this up to pick on your age here, Pixel, is the fact that there was a time when there was something called customer service. Publix used to be known for it, and other places, Disney, other
They still
places in
are.
Central Florida. Well, we are the service capital of the world here in Central Florida, so this is something we're very sensitive to, and so things have changed. And I thought, God, I remember going to the bank in the old days, especially if it was a small local one, and you could talk to them. It didn't matter what your credit score was, this and that. You could work out stuff, and so they have this exchange that, again, by today's standards, if this movie were to be remade, you couldn't have it this way because it's anonymous. It's a big bank. They're behind a glass, stupid wall or whatever. And you got the guy that sits down that may or may not be a part of it and is just eyeballing him. And again, this is a dumb scene, but I think it's effective. Kurt excuses himself to go into the men's room, and it's like looking for anything that he can find. And he gets the toilet plunger. It's like, yeah, is he going to use it? And there's nothing fancy about the scene, but when he gets the duct tape RDB, like you say, and they struggle with it, that's good. Where he's slamming on the brakes and choking the dude. That's good shit. You know
he
why?
had the little knife
That's
though.
violence for violence sake, and that's always a good thing when it advances.
I like the fact he had the knife in order to cut the duct tape, and like you see him go, he's going. I'm like, can you not hear him looking down? He's going. He's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Obviously he's struggling. And like maybe the guy, and then he's like, surprise, knife. And again, it's in the shoulder, not in the neck. Second time this has happened, or the first time. The second time was a cop gets shot in the shoulder, but somehow, he was aiming at the neck. You see him like, oh, it's Kurt Russell. Like I said, this was kind of weird seeing Kurt Russell not in like full on like, I'm gonna beat your ass. It's like fight, it's just like he's kind of it's kind of like watching Chevy Chase in a fight scene. Imagine if there's Chevy Chase in this, and Clark Griswold kidnapped my wife.
Yeah, it's again, one day we'll probably review his kid movies like the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes and all that stuff, right? But here's the thing, it's frantic to me. Was that Polanski was just having a lot of fun with it. It's supposed to be kind of like dreamlike, and I think it has to do. I explained last week when we reviewed it. It had to do with relationships. Here, it's just I don't want to call it a '90s flick because it's not. It's pretty simple, but even by '90s standards, I think that they had to figure out, okay, where's this going to go?
Oh,
and where can it go except for the over-the-top ending?
Yeah, and the best way to describe this whole entire movie is this like a sci-fi movie, like the Sci-Fi Channel. That's what it feels like. It was made for the Sci-Fi Channel,
Chiller or Shudder or something.
Yeah, because it was a so low budget, very remote locations, a lot of stunts, but like it wasn't like giant explosions. It's like we're watching blown away, you know. But like I said, it was one of those movies where I really thought, you know, it's like, wow, it's like, is this where his career's kind of going dipping down? Because I know like Kurt Russell was kind of, he did some other movies later after this, but I mean, I just kind of felt like, wow, this was kind of not really that like, climatic or as far as like, you know, very exciting of a movie. Said like, it puts out, everyone was pretty good, and then despite it being a totally unbelievable movie,
Right.
like I said, it would have been crazy if, like, you know, if he like the kid would have been like, you know, he would have shot the kid.
Yeah, and so Pixel, this kind of reminds me of something you said a few minutes ago when we were reviewing Mission Impossible.
Well, hold on, I think he's busy looking at something else.
No, I'm here.
Eye contact, Pixel.
We talked about how Mission Impossible, for better or for worse, the season 1 that we've been reviewing, the original TV show, how it's remarkably consistent, whether or not they have all the same characters in them, you know, each episode, right? And I feel like here we're getting kind of a similar situation with this movie, where, and several people mentioned in chat already about how, you know, we love Kurt Russell, so we're feeling it, but everybody in here is like JT Walsh. I mean, he's not a bad actor, but you don't go, oh man, that's JT Walsh, I gotta go get me some JT Walsh action movies. Everyone's just good in it. This is a remarkably consistent movie. Would you agree?
Speaking of remarkably consistent, it's like Mission Impossible in that way. No, I agree that all the acting here is really good, really solid. I don't know if I believe completely what our RDV is saying about it being completely unbelievable. I mean, it's an unlikely situation. It's an unlikely situation, but there is
2 against 1, bro. I read Ed's comment. I agreed with it.
We have to take human trafficking seriously.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, how many times did somebody had their car break down in seemingly in the middle of nowhere? It happens. Usually you aren't being hunted by a trucker, but
unless they put on a CB radio.
Some of that excitement is necessary. Yeah, I mean, when he was being chased at the end with 2 cars on his side and a big ass truck right behind him, it was epic. It was great. But
I actually thought the driving chase scene was actually fairly good.
It was really well done, and you know how I can be about chase scenes. So I mean,
yeah. Well, it reminds me of the old expression that the couple that murders together stays together, because what you get here is the big showdown with the chase scene over a bridge, probably over the same river. And of course, there's no other cars or cops around at all. And this is where I'm just shaking my head, because, again, mentioning, like, say, Mission Impossible 7 that we reviewed here, the train thing at the end, I don't really care for those kinds of things. Fine, whatever. But I'm tired of the whole you're over a cliff and it doesn't work. And thank you, Ace Ventura 2, for letting the raccoon die, because that's the reality of these situations. So in here, we get it where he's got, you know, they're kind of fighting and going up and all that. And it was done well. But when he gets out and the lady's got her leg, you know, his wife's in there, and it's kind of like not broken, but trapped, and he gets her out.
It's pinned up because he kept pushing him sideways up against the guardrail or the bridge.
Yeah, the stunts were good. I agree with that. I don't know if he did them himself, but they were the practical effects that RDV and I talk about appreciating the most. But when his wife basically gets that look in her eye, and he's basically like, you go, girl. And she puts like a neutral and all that so it can land on the dude. Fuck yeah. I mean, if it didn't do that, then we would not be talking about this movie. But that sealed it. That made me go, that's fitting. And again, violence for violence.
That's believable, because after all this shit she had gone through, she's like, well, fuck this. You know, you deserve it.
Yeah.
It wasn't only like, you know, her, one-upping Kurt Russell. You know, it's just her getting her small little revenge herself.
Well, let me ask you guys this. It came up briefly earlier, but in the third act, we find where Kurt had stashed himself on the guy staying, and I think they mentioned like 12 hours roughly, if you could calculate from the verbiage in the movie. So they could have been up to 1,000 miles away from where they really started. Basically, the guy comes home and the kid runs up to him, and his wife's there, and it looks like it's a little house on the prairie and all that. And I didn't think, honestly, RDV, I think you
Well,
reference this differently. I don't think the wife originally knew about it because when he
here's
pulls the 18-wheeler in the barn there, you see where he's got everything hidden. And I definitely know there's plenty of couples out there that are completely oblivious to other people's
so
situations. You know
let me
what I mean?
explain this because at first she's like she played dumb and she's like and then she's like what is he talking about, and then she tells her son shoot him, tell her son to shoot Kurt Russell. I was like, at that point she sealed her fate. She obviously knew something was up, but she didn't know. I mean, she probably didn't want to know.
Yeah,
So
I think it was more that where she knew something was wrong, didn't know what was going on, but being the mother hen of the house, obviously, the best thing would have been for the son to shoot it. And the kid was, obviously he was wielding a gun. So if you know as well as I do, you're going to wield it,
but
you
you
shoot
saw
it.
her demeanor just changed from sweet to like just disgusting evil witch.
But
Like
then what about the scene where when he basically forces them, Kurt does a gunpoint to go in the barn,
yeah, but
makes them go underneath the stairs. That's what to me, that's what
when
sealed
she,
it for me to make it seem like
yeah.
she didn't know because that's
She,
when they found his wife in the freezer.
Yeah, I guess that she probably had to extent probably knew something was going on, but she didn't. She probably stayed out of it because he probably threatened her or whatever. We don't know. But I mean, like the fact that is it the way she acted towards Kurt Russell when he had the gun towards them, and then the kid had the rifle, and Kurt's like, "I'm not gonna hurt your mom." No, that's the other story. But but then she's like, "Just shoot him, honey." I'm like, you lost all credibility. I don't care even if you didn't know about the wife in the freezer. You wanted him dead. You wanted the main character dead.
Yeah.
You're telling it's like anyway. So yeah, like and then you see him like he forces him into like they basically go into the barn. They get her out of his wife out of his freezer. She comes up and then JT over guy. He's like, oh, you're gonna pay me. And kicks him right in the face, knocks him down. I was just like, that moment, and then the moment with the wife basically dropping the truck on him were the most satisfying moments in this. Other than like the scene where the guy in the truck with the duct tape kept choking him. Those are the highlights of the movie for me. I mean, it was basically a snore when it came to the whole thing. Them driving originally.
All about the buildup.
Yeah, the buildup.
Mm-hmm.
But once it did pay off in the end. Just not for the other guy, JT. He's flattened.
Well,
I gotta say, did you expect his truck to explode though when it fell off?
I've said ever since T.J. Hooker, anytime you have a car that gets into an accident or wreck or spins out or blows a tire, expect it to flip and explode. I am not joking. I'm telling you.
I know because they saw it with the other cars.
Yes, and that's what they do in movies. Oh, we're gonna have it flip and then we'll have it explode. Okay, it was going 5 miles an hour in an empty parking lot. Doesn't matter. It'll be cool. It's ridiculous. The truck dropping on the guy's face, not ridiculous. The car just exploding for no reason. Ridiculous. Yeah. No, it's been a while since we've had a good semi chase too, and I thought, like I say, the action. I don't think this is an action film, but definitely the Act 3 was an action film. So you could argue that the first act was kind of like, like a mystery, a thriller, or whatever, and the second one maybe a combination, but it definitely turns into a little bit of an action at the end, which a lot of times I say I don't care for it, especially when they go to the simplistic formula of like guns or whatever or something dramatic. But here it worked. Kurt Russell always brings that instant likability to him where you want to see him playing a role. A few years later from here, he would do that one where he's like the
Black
Terminator type thing. Then he would do was it Dark Blue where he's like a bad cop. I mean, he would do several roles like that, and this was, to your point, kind of like, his family man type things, because everybody does these movies occasionally, and he definitely, we saw him like this in Tango and Cash, right? The glasses, actually no, that was him being the goof. Actually, it was Stallone that had the glasses. That's right, in the suit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good movie overall. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you could reboot it today.
Yeah.
Now, the closest they came was what was that movie with Russell Crowe?
No.
Oh, the Russell Crowe one where he's the road rage guy.
Unhinged.
That's phenomenal. I love it.
It's a good movie, but that's the closest you can come.
Oh man, yeah, that was very good. Unhinged.
Yeah, Unhinged. Yeah.
So like with Unhinged, you don't have to know why he feels that way, although you get a bit of a backstory here.
Yeah.
You don't know why JT Walsh and his crew are doing it other than money. You know,
So
it's nothing nefarious other than, you know,
Yeah.
we're bad dudes. We want.
I always get this movie confused with Black Dog, which came out a year later, and that's Patrick Swayze playing a truck driver, and then his wife and child are threatened. He has to deliver these weapons in the back of his semi truck without being arrested by the cops and stuff. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the Swayze movie, and it's free on Tubi with Meatloaf as a villain with Randy Travis as well.
I would do anything for love.
Well, I would not, sir, and that's the difference between your generation and mine. So, you know, we'll just leave it at that because, you know, you may say you do anything for love, but until we talk about a Swayze Christmas or some Hallmark movies, we don't know what you would do for love, especially.
But I won't do that. I won't do that.
Right. All right. Let's go around the horn here for final thoughts before we wrap it up and everything. Too, Pixel, you go first. Any other comments you'd like to make? Things you'd like to get out there?
I think it's a very good movie. I'm very glad with our selection today. It's we get these rare weeks where we have everything absolutely a hit. Yeah. 2 epic episodes of Mission Impossible, and then this movie, it's all solid all day, and I love days like this.
Yeah, we roughly agreed that the episode 17 and 18 that we covered with the young Archie Bunker, that they were probably pairwise, because we were doing every 2 episodes, were the strongest so far of season 1 here. And I agree with you. It's rare that, you know, let's be real. If we're doing 2 or 3 different things a night, you got to put them in order. You can't say, well, they're all great in their own special ways. Screw that. Sometimes they suck, and we know that, or we don't like them, or we like them to various degrees or whatever. But that being said, Pixel, you know, I always appreciate it when you do this stuff. Being the young 20-something guy, you never know what you're going to say, so we harass you a little bit. That's our job to do that. So with that being said, RDB, take us out as far as any other final thoughts, anything you need to plug for tonight.
Okay, first I want to address this. In the 2023 reboot, according to Ed Brewer, Kurt Russell gets kidnapped and Goldie Hawn has to basically free him.
Take my money. Take it right now.
Oh, I want Overboard too.
I want him being that pirate with the houseboat and it gets repossessed or something. Or
Captain Ron.
Maybe they're doing the RV thing across the states.
Our Edgar Allan Poe down there doesn't know what we're talking about.
That's okay.
The hairstyle, the glasses.
Edgar Allan Poe? Really? That's the one you got.
Well, I was thinking more from that. What was that movie? A movie or the guy who played the RoboCop reboots, where he basically he start with the A. It was a TV series. Remember, he based Altered Carbon. That's what it was. Altered Carbon. The hologram at the hotel was Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
So the killing Joel.
So when I see the hairstyle, it kind of looks that way.
I'm going to be getting a haircut.
He says that. Yeah. So all right.
I have too much hair.
All right. Anything you need to plug?
All right. So no, yeah. So basically, my final thoughts on this movie is that it was very close to breaking down completely. It was kind of a slow movie, but it said for those 3 scenes really helps it, knocks it over. So basically, it went from being a mid movie to being a slightly better. Oh, it's not great, but it's still a decent watch. You know, you can have fun with it.
Yeah, I agree. Just when you go and make a slow movie that I might not care about, you go and totally drop an 18-wheeler on some dude's face and totally redeem yourself.
The only thing that was missing was Peter Cullen's voice in the movie. Peter Cullen did the trailer.
Yeah. All right, anything you need to plug tonight, sir?
It's just something we do every night. Try to take over the world. Yes, I think Geeky Public Show. We're going in about 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. We'll be reading Comics 457 over there, and then we'll do another reading around 8:20. These are both Central Time, 7:15 and 8:20 Central. 2 different readings. Have fun with that. And then
you want to hear J. Jonah Jameson yell at Spider-Man, that's where you want to go.
Or if you want to hear him yell at Mark, go check out Invincible. We read the first issue.
Think, Mark.
Think, Speeder. Think.
Maybe one day we'll have a breakdown comic book. Huh?
I think one day you'll have a breakdown. You'll read it with us.
That may be true.
And
Right,
Pixel,
there you have it, ladies and
Pixel will go to
gentlemen.
AI class probably.
It's not a class; it's a meeting.
Yeah. All right. Breakdown Kurt Russell. It's fun. It's worth watching once at least, especially if you're a Kurt Russell fan. It can be enjoyable. It's not too serious, but it's good enough, definitely. Especially by today's standards, it'd be one of the better movies of the year if it came out this year. Just how weak movies are today. But yeah, enjoyed it. It definitely feels like a '90s flick. You'll enjoy it, and you'll enjoy what we're going to talk about Tuesday night, which will be to at this point. But RDV and I will be pulling something out of the hat for sure. So be on the lookout for that. We'll post that here shortly too. For RDV and Professor Pixel, have a good night. Always stay extreme.
This was not a Dan Curtis production.
As always,